Welcome back, everybody. My name is Max Tim, and this is Insider News.
And I am Shayna Weber, and the top headline this week of April 25th, 2022 is all about the downfall of Netflix.
The downfall. Gosh, I was thinking about, like, is it the down? They're so big, I think it's like too big to fail kind of thing.
I mean, I think it's inevitable. I think once you reach, they were talking about once you reach that ceiling, you're gonna, I mean, you got to revamp. You can't stick to the same ways.
10 years of incredible growth. It's just kind of silly to think that you can go another 10 years of that same type of growth. There are only so many people on the planet.
To break it down, basically what happened is Netflix put out a report that they lost 200,000 subscribers in the first quarter of 2022. And that scared Wall Street, and the stocks plummeted 35%, as did all the other streamers, by the way.
But even more so,
they all went down too.
They all went down too, but they're also predicting 2 million of a loss in quarter two, which is crazy.
Yes.
I don't know how you can, like, that's quite a jump.
You know, all this speculation and all these ideas of like how Netflix is going to recover from this, how they're going to change their platform to either gain subscribers. I mean, I think they hit their ceiling of subscribers essentially, but there's three things that we found that they are going to start implementing within this next year. Said it's going to take about a year. So the first one is they're going to crack down on password sharing. And they're already trying this test out in Peru and Chile and Costa Rica, where they're charging what they're calling a sub account fee for anyone who's letting somebody in the family use their password who doesn't live in the same household.
And there is a funny little Twitter image in the article that Netflix posted in like 2017. Loving is sharing. And like they were like, please share our password. Now they're like, oh, well, we might need to charge you $3 for that. I don't really blame them.
I don't either, but it's not the only thing that they're going back on their word.
Yeah.
So they originally said that they were never going to do ad supported subscriptions. That's not us. That's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? They're about to roll that out. So
as an option,
ads are going to be there.
We will put that there. It's not, they're just not going to force it on us. It's for budget conscious people who don't want to spend as much as the $15 or $17 it might eventually become. And so you have an option to purchase at a lower fee, which, you know, it's fine. But in my mind, $17 a month, or I think it's 15 now. Sure, it's a no-brainer. I don't know. With as much content that's on there, to have the option to be able to tune into Netflix, then yeah. Once it starts getting, which it probably will in, you know, the future, to 2025, then you're going to have to, you know, think about it.
Well, there's an interesting thing. There's a word that I think it's called gulching, something where what they're trying to stop is they're trying to stop users from jumping from platform to platform. So what people do now is they get Netflix for a month, right? Watch as many things as they can. And then they go, okay, next month I'm going to turn this one off and go to HBO Max. So there's a word that I can't remember what it is, but essentially it's that idea. So they're trying to figure out ways to keep people at Netflix or at any streamer for that matter.
Yeah. And this, you said this earlier, Shayna, not on our broadcast, but you were saying that this was inevitable. Like this was going to happen.
I mean, what do they have now? A gazillion trillion subscribers. And I had it written down somewhere, but how many subscribers they have. And I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet, but you can't expect to keep getting subscribers because they're children, you know, new people are children. So what are you going to charge kids in your household? Like how many people are in your household? 4? Okay, well, here's your price.
Well, that and all of the other networks and studios are launching and have already launched their own services. And so you're competing with that. And then as time goes by, which of course is also inevitable, you're going to have some networks like Apple TV Plus launching a Ted Lasso that Netflix can't match. And so this is just the way of the industry. And so when people are freaking out like, oh, they're losing all these subscribers, this is just a new version of a studio or production company not getting the views or, you know, tickets at a box office over a summer. They're going to bounce back. I don't want to like downplay this too much because the stock price is really low right now and I'd like it to stay low so I can buy some, but it's going to bounce back. I really think it is.
Third thing that Netflix is going to do in this new era is they're talking about spending less on content and talent deals. Instead of just throwing some money out there to a big name or a big director or big on-camera talent, they do need to pare it back and try to focus more on content and quality rather than big names or flashy titles. That rolls into the animation part of it.
The animation part, which they're I don't know, all but folding that division.
Oh no! Perfect! Let's just bring all the bad news at once. Woo!
Oh well, it was nice while it lasted, right?
Sure.
I feel bad for the staff and the people that have worked there. But it's also just a bummer for the animation world. But you should definitely read this article from Wall Street Journal. It's a really extensive article, and they're talking about some of the behind the scenes back and forth conversations from, between creatives and the executives, or just the creatives talking about their experience with Netflix. A lot of people have had wonderful experiences with Netflix, but those are usually the Ryan Murphys who now never have to worry about money.
Right.
I shouldn't say that. There are a lot of creative people who've been very happy with it. There is a quote from a creative that said, and this person is saying, as creative people, we were getting whipsawed, and there's not a mission statement that sticks around for more than a couple months in terms of Netflix. And that we've found in our own work, on the production side with the ISA and our production shingle, the mandates change so quickly that it's hard to find material for them. And it's a little silly. And so the creatives are saying the same thing, but also the shutting down of series, like you were talking about, Shayna, in terms of, you launched this show, like there was a show, the sci-fi drama Archive 81 landed in Netflix's ranking of top 10 shows in the US soon after its January debut, even reaching #1. 2 months later, it was canceled.
Right.
So it's like, what metrics are you using here? what
Right,
do
but
you need?
that's why people are leaving Netflix too, is because the
Right.
shows that they love aren't sticking around. So why start it?
Yeah.
They're just going to cancel it.
Yeah, so Netflix, they've got some explaining to do, as you might say. But I believe in Netflix. Goonies never say die, Netflix. It's our time down here. You just got to come up with some great shows. And Shayna and I have a few of our own that I'm sure we would be happy to sell to you.
Yes, I agree. Just call me. I mean, you don't need to throw a whole bunch of money at me, just a little bit of money.
Right.
We're good. But I think that's what they need to do. I think they need to get back down to, instead of thinking that they're the only one out there and that they can just advertise on Netflix and you're going to go there automatically and find out they don't do any advertising outside, as
Right.
do the other streamers, or as the other streamers do. So yeah, I think they just have to start catching up a little bit again, and they'll be fine.
They're going to be fine. It is funny. I was chatting with my parents about it last night, and about this, charging for the usage of the passwords and sharing and everything. And I was like, it kind of makes sense. And my mom was like, yeah, why not? And so I think for most people, it's like $3. Yeah, we're basically using them in a way. 15 people are using a Netflix password. Come on. I think you're going to have to charge for that. It's going to make a difference.
I agree. And they'll be fine.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next segment here this week in ISA Insider, networkisa.org. As you all know, what's the first one we're going to be chatting about here, Shannon?
We're kind of going to skim them a little bit so you can go on your own and read them. The first one is from Brock Swinson, and it's talking about the title of the article is The Legal Side of Screenwriting, which in and of itself is something that, yes, as a screenwriter, you should know legally or have somebody on hand that you can ask questions to before you sign anything. Don't just go sign an agreement or sign an option or sign even, don't sign anything until you have legal looking at it to make sure that you are protected. But this article pretty much goes into about if you are writing a story that is based on IP or based on a true story or based on a person, living or dead, you really have to make sure that you have the rights to that story. You have your bases covered, because if you do get to a point where you sell this or even go make this, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble if you don't have the correct permission.
Yeah, and there's a lot to say about it. And one reason we're skimming this article a little bit is because you're going to get a lot more out of it by reading the article than us talking about it, because Shayna and I are not attorneys. And so it's hard for us to speak to the legalese of it all, because we've heard stories, from people that were frustrated that, I presented this project to this production company, and then, a year later, they suddenly have a project that's close to mine. It happens sometimes. I will say more often than not, the idea of stealing material rarely happens. That is usually coincidence or zeitgeist, which actually the article mentions. But in terms of telling a story or writing a story about someone or based on something, a really great example is this other article that you wanted to talk about.
This all correlates to this new article that came out in the Hollywood Reporter today about Jerry West, who is threatening to sue for defamation about how he is portrayed in the new HBO Max series Winning Time. So even if it's harder when you're smaller, but even when you're big and you're making something, you got to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row.
Well, what's crazy about that Jerry West article is I haven't watched Winning Time, and I want to. I just
haven't either.
Haven't spent the time to watch it yet. But he might have a case. The article is saying, in terms of the ISA or the Creative Screenwriting Magazine article, it mentions that defamation cases are usually difficult, or at least, to prove that you were defaming a particular name, or you're using someone's name without their permission, you're telling the wrong version of the story or something. They're usually a little difficult. But in this case, at first, when I heard it, I'm like, oh, Jerry West is overreacting. And then I read the article and I'm like, oh, wow. Like, there's a very specific moment in the show where the actor playing Jerry West speaks to the camera and basically says, I'm the real Jerry West, which from a legal standpoint is like, okay, you're telling the audience this is based on the real Jerry West, and you're making this person out to be basically a monster. And a lot of people are coming out and saying he wasn't like that at all. So that, it's not only just identity and, the legalities behind portraying someone, but it's also how you portray the person. So,
right.
Yeah.
So the moral of this is just make sure you have an attorney and protect yourself.
Just be careful. I mean, that's the tricky part of the industry right now is everybody wants IP. Everybody wants something that's based on a true story or a life story or whatever. With that in mind, then you really do have to just cover all your bases. It's not, you're going to spend less time trying to cover your bases than you would if you didn't, and suddenly you find yourself in some form of a legal battle. It's just silly.
Yeah, nothing kills a deal faster,
right?
Than not having all of that paperwork and rights all locked up.
It can sometimes help the deal. It can help the sale. If you're like, hey, I have Elvis's estate saying I can do this. They're like, seriously? Oh, okay. I don't know where Elvis came from, but yeah. All right. There's another one though that we can talk a little bit more about in terms of our own experiences.
So there's this great article in the ISA article section of ISA Insider News. It is titled "How Staying Local Brought Hollywood to Me." And this is just one of those like really inspiring, cool kind of needle in the haystack type stories. But I think it's worth mentioning because we hear a lot at ISA about, do I have to be in LA? Do I have to be in LA? Do I have to be in LA or New York? No, you don't. You just got to make the rules work for you wherever you're at. And in this case, this gentleman did that.
It is an inspiring story. He moved to Montana, and he had worked in the industry for a little while. But then he wrote a couple scripts, one of which did well in a contest, and then he got optioned a couple times, but they couldn't raise funding. And so he found basically that the trouble with the project was it just couldn't find the money. He then found out through a contact in Montana that there is this state film grant. He ended up winning the grant, and then he used that to go out to interested parties. And he got funding for the movie, and not full funding, but it was at least the start. And that's one thing to think. We don't have to have, if you think your movie is $5 million, you don't have to have the 5 million. If you came in with a million, just to be able to get the ball rolling, try to raise funds elsewhere. That's usually what happens with independent film. You have more than one party putting money in. But it's just a great, inspiring story to show that you don't have to live in Los Angeles, especially if you're working in the feature world. If you want to get staffed on a show and actually be in the room, that's a different story, because that's just where the staff is. They're in Los Angeles or New York.
Yeah, it's really cool. Check it out. It's very detailed. and goes into who he contacted and who reached out to him and how it kind of unfolded. And he's got some big names in this movie and sounds great.
Yeah.
So check it out on ISA Insider.
We're all about sharing success stories. And there is one particular success story for a person named Elon Musk. We'll move into what's happening in the Twitter sphere at the moment. Quite literally on Twitter and with Twitter. It's funny though, I kind of giggled because we have a little note section here where we're referencing the next segments and everything. And Shayna put in here that Elon Musk is buying it for 45 billion. In my brain, just because I had previously read an article that said he's buying it for 44 billion. And my brain immediately went to, oh, what, a 44, 45. And then I thought, that's a full $1 billion. Then at this point, it's like monopoly money. It's just insane.
That's true, because I think I rounded it up because I think it was 44 point something billion, and I rounded it up. So it was like 44.9, but then another article said 44. But you're right, it's a freaking $1 billion. Like that's not just like, oh, it's $4.99. No, it's $5.99. No, it's billions.
I mean, it is one of the, has nothing to do with anything, but I was thinking about it earlier today, just the difference between 1 million and 1 billion. It's difficult to wrap my brain around how huge of a difference it is, but we hear these numbers coming out all the time, whether it's in the industry or, just in business in general. There, kind of going back to getting your movie funded, this proves that there is a lot of money in the world. Just find some people who has the money. You can find it. There's so much money in the world, but anyway, Elon Musk has about half of it.
Obviously, the screenwriting Twitter world is going awry with this idea that there's going to be max exodus onto a new platform that I've been reading. It's called Mastodon, and people are jumping over there already. And I'm kind of like, wait a minute, why? I still want to know why. So if you know why, can you please put it in the comments below? Because I'm still very confused, screenwriting Twitter, about why Elon Musk is making you leave Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there's a love-hate relationship with Twitter, but why him specifically buying it is making you go like, oh, I'm out.
This is how quickly and easily conspiracy theory spreads in today's world, which is a little bit of a shame because I used to love conspiracy theories, but like the big ones, JFK, Bigfoot, but now it's like everything's a conspiracy theory because it just gets thrown out onto the internet and they're like, oh, it must be real. People believe that Elon Musk is going to do something horrible and evil with Twitter or something. It's like, what could he do? It's just, if he changes it, maybe it might be for the better. I don't know. What harm can really be done if he really privatizes the thing? Maybe there are some moral, issues, but folks, it's a free social media service that you're putting up. I had a bagel today and I didn't like it. I mean, this is, let's focus on some important things. But there is an article that I laughed pretty hard at and I will share this. I will put it in terms of, sharing it here in the video. I had no idea how many other social media services there were outside of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, has any of you heard of NeoCities? There's a place called Space Hay, Pillow Fort. And then of course, Tumblr, which is unbelievably still around. I had no idea. Discord is relatively new. I've heard nice things about Discord, and I have absolutely no idea what Mastodon is. It's like a more organized Twitter, which, like, I guess in some ways kind of makes sense because I think the article is saying something like if you're interested in tabletop games, then you can talk about tabletop games on Twitter, and then your friends don't need to see that Max is talking about tabletop games, which I can like, okay, that's fine, but I don't know.
I don't know. I can't figure out TikTok, so I'm not even going to switch. I'm just sticking to what I have.
TikTok is pretty cringeworthy, man. It's just people desperate to be famous. And do you really want to be famous? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little
no,
foolish.
And nobody reads my tweets anyway. So I don't.
Right.
It's me talking to this, so it's fine.
Yeah.
No one cares anyway. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be interesting, but I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we'll see. Apparently he is buying it. I saw a little news notification come up where it's like he's going to do it, and there was under scrutiny over the past week or so. I always try to go to, let's think the best of someone first. Maybe he's a weird dude and kind of obnoxious, but Tesla's pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe
You
he's
know?
going to use it. I mean, I just read something right before we started this that he was going to remove bots. It was like one of the big things,
Okay.
and kind of streamline some things out of it. Yeah, give it a shot before you just run into a new one that you have no idea about. Also,
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
Anyway, but Twitter is full of drama, so just maybe it's what was needed. And
right.
also, if you're a screenwriter and you're on Twitter, then start writing.
Yeah, right. I will say that it is nice to have a community of people to chat with
Sure.
about the craft you're working on, whatever that might be. I mean, I'm a part of a group on Facebook for Porsche 944 enthusiasts. Never in my life did I think I would ever be a part of that group, but it's kind of cool. You just go into a little world and you can chat about that. Maybe Mastodon's a great idea because then you can organize the chatting, but in any way that you can communicate with other people of like minds in terms of similarities and interests, great, but
Yes.
let's talk about what
Anyway.
you're watching.
Okay, so I watched 3 things this weekend, and this goes back to our very first episode, what we were talking about. I finally watched The Batman, and I actually really liked it.
Yeah.
I did not think that I was going to like it, but I actually really liked it. It had a very Fincher kind of dark feel, and I like that version of Batman. I like the more like noir, like
that should be Batman.
dark. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson did a great job. So
Okay.
I have no hate going on for that. I also finally watched Cyrano,
Mm-hmm.
which is now on Amazon Prime. And that is the Joe Wright directed movie with music from the guy who works with Taylor Swift a lot on Folklore.
Oh.
So that's cool. I did not know it was a musical.
Oh, I didn't either. It's like a full-blown musical.
It's wonderful. It takes a little bit to get into, but Peter Dinklage is amazing in it. And the woman, the newcomer who plays the main lead, Roxanne, is awesome. I really enjoyed it, but I love what Joe Wright does. Like, to me, he takes words and just enhances them visually. And it's just a beautiful marriage to me, what he does. So I'll always be a fan. And then I went to the movie theater with my kid and watched The Bad Guys.
Yeah,
which was fun. It was no Pixar movie. I'll say that in my opinion. It didn't have the heart like a Pixar movie, but it was fun, and it felt like it had this sort of like Pulp Fiction kind of Reservoir Dogs undertone to it. It was fun, and it was lively and very boy oriented.
So Max liked it then.
Yeah, he liked it. It's very fun. It's cute.
Cool. 24 million in the weekend.
What are you watching?
Pretty good. I've been so obsessed with Ghosts, the CBS show, and I was bummed that I didn't have any new episodes to watch. So I ventured into the British version of Ghosts, and it was a really interesting comparison from like a culture standpoint, because the British version is, I shouldn't say a lot darker, but it's kind of darker, and things don't go well for the main characters as easily or as well as they do for the American living characters. The fact that Britain has been along for so much longer than America is the type of ghosts they can have. Or like they have a literal caveman as one of the ghosts, and he is by far the funniest. Not that there weren't cave people living, on our continent, but still, it just seemed interesting. Like for example, the American version, both in the British and American version, the lead wife character gets hurt, and when she comes out of her coma, can suddenly see and talk to and hear the ghosts. In the British version, the lead falls out of a window, like way up. And probably should have died, and then comes back and kind of like, rehabilitates, and then she can see the ghost. But in the American version, the lead falls down the stairs and she hurts herself. But boy, is it a lot simpler. Like, she was barely in a coma, and it's just interesting to see the difference. But then also the difference between how the American half-hour comedy is becoming that much more serialized. Because the British version, you could almost tune into any episode in a non-linear way and just enjoy it. It's much more of a sitcom, but the American version is very serialized. So I watched all 3 seasons, of course, of the British version of Ghost, and it's so great. I just love that show.
Nice. I still have to watch that, but I'm going to England, so I'll check out some Ghosts for you.
When are you going to England?
On my trip tomorrow.
Yes, you're leaving tomorrow. Oh my gosh, everybody's leaving. I'm leaving this weekend. Well, I'm driving 2 hours away, but you and then one of our teammates, Felicity, that you both are going to the British Isles
Yes.
and that's exciting. I'm jealous. But I also watched Outer Range. I haven't caught up, but Outer Range is a new show on Amazon Prime. I'm going to do a Max Reacts video on that, which, by the way, my new Max Reacts video is out on YouTube, and I'm reacting to Minx. I actually get in my car and drive around, and I just ramble on and on about what I like about the show. And again, I have Shayna to thank for telling me that it's worth watching, because I love that show. It's great.
Yes, I saw the beginning of your video. It was very funny.
My intro,
with your face.
Yeah, the first 9 seconds at the very least is enough for you to tune in. All right, let's move on to useful links and resources here.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, this one, This is a good one. I didn't even know this existed.
We found this on Deadline. It's all about the Writers Guild Foundation is opening up their staff training program, which you can submit for May 5th to June 6th. And essentially, this is a program for writers' assistants and support staff. They are providing writers who are LGBTQ, BIPOC, writers with disabilities, writers over 50, with tools and education to become a writer's assistant and script coordinator, ultimately resulting in meaningful employment opportunities. And so make sure that you go to the Writers Guild Foundation website, check it out, find out what you need to submit. And I think it's amazing. I love this. I did not know it existed like you did, but when I read it, I was like, yes, that's amazing.
It's so cool. They're going to choose, I think it was 16 people that will then be a part of the program, who will be trained to then hopefully be staffed as a writer's assistant or script coordinator on a show. And so, it's also writers with disabilities, writers over the age of 50. Pretty cool. I wish that would have existed when I was younger, although I guess I wouldn't have qualified in terms of their requirements, but whatever. I think the fact that they're doing this at all, much less for underrepresented people, is it's awesome. This is a little bit of a theme here. I think for the past 3 weeks, we've been talking about training programs that are popping up around the country to make sure. Archie's excited about it too. Anyway, it's kind of segueing into the good news portion, because even though it's a useful link and you should definitely be checking it out, we're including this as part of our good news because we have a fun, sweet little story for our good news of the week. I have been delving into the world of car restorations, and I saw this article a little while ago. This is actually April 21st is when the article came up. This is from our friends at sunnyskieswithaz.com. And the article says, woman opens honest auto shop with on-site nail salon. So it's an all-female staffed garage, basically, that are working on cars. And the owner left her 6-figure job of working as an engineer. And now she opened this, they're saying mostly female run auto shop with an on-site salon for customers to get their nails done while they wait. But what I love about this, which I think more mechanics and garages and shops should do, is that they actually have a little bit of an education section of the business too, where they're teaching people, here's how you can do a lot of the things yourself that you don't have to pay for. Small stuff like oil changes, switching over things, that I don't even know that much about. But that's the whole point. Why would you pay $100 for somebody to do something that you can do pretty easily yourself? And you can maybe speak to this, Shayna, or not, but from what the article says, a lot of women feel really
intimidated.
A lot of women feel intimidated when they go to either a dealership or they go to a mechanic because they, admittedly don't know anything about the car. And so this, I think, is a fabulous idea. And it shows that more women are getting involved in professions that for far too long people have just thought, oh, it's a man's job, which it isn't.
No, I think it's amazing. I think that, as a female going into any sort of auto place, I'm a smart chick, but it is intimidating because they are pushy. A lot of men, not everyone, but a lot of the males in that profession are kind of pushy, and they try to upsell you, and they show you a dirty air filter and you don't know any different.
Right.
So, why not know? And then you can call them out.
Totally.
They're going to try to make money. Everyone's trying to make money. So know what you're going in with and what you need help, with, or what you need changed in your car or fixed. And you'll probably get a better deal. So it's smart.
Totally. And I'm just remembering a scene from Legally Blonde where Elle Woods, in the very beginning of the movie, the salesperson, I don't know if you remember this, thinks she's going to kind of pull one over on Elle Woods because the salesperson just thinks she's a dumb blonde. And she tries to sell this, marked down piece of a dress or something. But Elle knows everything about it. And she's like, oh, well, but she's really actually very calm about telling this person. I don't know. I've been reviewing these things in a webinar and in my Story Farm groups, and that's why the Legally Blonde thing came up. But I think that's our insider news of the week.
I think so.
I think
we will be off next week.
Yes.
So in the meantime, make sure you're checking out ISA Insider. Make sure you're checking out our events page for upcoming events happening in May. We have some good ones, so go there, check it out. Where else should they go, Max?
I am trying to sell everybody as much as possible to subscribe to the ISA's YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, post a comment. And I'm assuming you're already subscribed. If you're not, it takes quite literally about 5 seconds to click the button. If you're watching this in the pro tips section of the ISA's website, go to the ISA's YouTube channel and subscribe. You'll get notifications when new videos are popping up. We have a ton of new videos coming out. And I can't stress this enough, even though my title with the ISA is Director of Education. So of course I'm going to be pushing education. It's a free education on YouTube. You have to pay literally nothing, and you're going to learn a ton. And the more you can immerse yourself in the educational process of how to do this thing that we are doing in terms of writing, just the better you're going to be and more confident you're going to become. And so hopefully the videos are at least entertaining and you all learned something.
We are news you can use. How about that?
Beautiful. There's our new slogan. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everybody. See ya.